Hello everyone, my name is Leah and welcome back to my podcast Conversations with Leah. Today is Wednesday, April 24th, and today will be a two-parter regarding musical biopics. The good, the bad, and the horrible, and legends or people that deserve that deserve a biopic but won't get one because of crazy circumstances, or the movie industry is petty. And what prompted me to make this episode was the whole discourse within the MJ fan community of the Michael biopic. As you all know, Michael Jackson will receive a biopic next year called Michael, starring his nephew Jafar portraying him. And there has been some discourse with the fan community about whether or not we need this biopic. Now, before I get into that, I just want to let you guys know that I am a big fan of MJ. It's a shame I only became a fan of his after he passed away, but I admire MJ because of how much of a humanitarian he was and how he wasn't like your typical modern-day celebrity that would only cling to social issues just for clout or just to be more appealing as a celebrity, if that's the best way to put it. Like, he was a genuine human being, and it's a shame that he died at an early death and people are still taking advantage of his kindness or being ungrateful years later. And now if you want my stance on this biopic, I'm in the middle of this biopic, when it comes to this biopic, and I'll tell you why. When I believe that the biopic isn't going to do Michael's story justice. I mean, like, the bar is low for MJ biopics, considering the fact we had 3 MJ biopics in the past: The Jackson's American Dream, Ben Mirror, The Michael Jackson Story, and Search for Neverland. And the last 2, they all sucked horribly, with Me in the Mirror even more so. And the crazy, I watched all 3 of those biopics, and The Jackson's American Dream was the best one. It had a great cast of all-stars and up-and-comers like Angela Bassett, Lawrence Hilton Jacobs, Terrence Howard, the late Wiley Draper, rest in peace, etc. And then Search for Neverland, we all know how horrible the Flex biopic is. Like, it's super horrible. Like, it paints Michael like an out-of-touch lunatic. And then with Search for Neverland, which casted a MJ impersonator, it was super horrible. But then again, considering the book it was based on, and in which there was a third bodyguard that wasn't mentioned in the book or in the movie, who stated that both the book and the movie were full of lies, then that explains why that garbage was horrible. So the bar is set very low for this biopic. And plus, it's produced by his estate, which is ran by people he wanted nothing to do with at the time of his death, or he caused them a lot more problems. And have been selling his assets, including his publishing. So you want me to trust a movie made by the estate that not only released footage of him pretty much overworked on stage, referred to the This Is It movie, and released an album that had 3 fake songs to make a movie that tells the truth about Michael Jackson? Please. And then, not to mention, they're not going to portray Michael as a human being. They're going to portray Michael, the icon, the superstar, the legend, the celebrity, rather than Michael, the human being, the humanitarian, the empath. Like, they're not going to include all that in the biopic. I know there's only so much they can include in a 2 or 3 hour movie, and I get that, but I feel they're going to dwell on the celebrity Michael, the celebrity icon Michael, not the humanitarian, entrepreneur, charitable Michael. Like, Michael was such a humanitarian. Like, he devoted a lot. He spent his whole life helping multiple people, helping children, defending civil rights. Like, he had, like, literally his foundation went all around the world just to look for a liver for an orphaned Hungarian boy's liver transplant. And the boy wound up getting the transplant. Not only that, but he's now 3 years old with a family of his own. So I wonder if that story is going to be included in the biopic, which chances are it's probably not. And then I feel they're going to play it safe or sugarcoat Michael's story. It's more so with the fake allegations against him. More likely, they're going to portray it as pretty much an extortion plot brought on by people taking advantage of his kindness and naivety, instead of getting into the dirty, dirty deepness of the allegations, which I feel like they're not going to dig into the dirty, dirty deepness of the allegations because it's going to hold certain people accountable. And you probably get what I mean by certain people accountable, certain entities accountable, and they don't want to hold those entities accountable, which they should be held accountable, because there's a reason why Michael's legacy is tainted and why Michael is in the early grade right now. And then not to mention, for what's been stated in the trailer, they show him taking a pill. I mean, they're going to portray him as this all-out drug addict, which it's well documented that Mike was not a drug addict, that he was being unknowingly drugged by the doctors around him. Like that shady suspect dermatologist. Like, Dr. Murray gave him the last dose, but it was that shady dermatologist that was pretty much drugging him to an early grave. Don't believe me, just do your research and you see what I mean, even more so with the AG trial that the Jacksons lost. And then with his love life, the only quote-unquote love interest of Michael that's going to be portrayed is probably Diana Ross, Stephanie Mills, Brooke Shields, Lisa Marie. That's why I feel they're going to portray with his love life, or try to make him out as asexual or as an asexual. He never knew love until he met Lisa Marie, which is not true. You can go look this up. In fact, there's a blog post on Michael's love life called "The Ladies in Michael's Life," which you can look up online. That includes a post made by someone who knew Michael that was on a National Enquirer forum. You can go look this up online. Like, all in all, I believe the movie is going to portray Michael as some wimpy, Peter Pan-esque, asexual man-child punk who never knew love until he met the quote-unquote love of his life, and who got screwed over because of his naivety and kindness, which a part of it, what he got screwed over was his kindness. But I feel like with Branca, the man that Michael wanted to do it and pretty much screwed him over, they're going to portray him as like a blindside-esque white savior. How Michael didn't know anything about the music business or music industry until he met Branca. Even though Michael was a very smart businessman, which was why he owned the Beatles catalog, which was never mentioned in the Flex biopic. But I feel like my honest opinion, I feel like that the Michael movie is going to be, I fear that the Michael movie is going to be like the Flex movie, but with higher production values. And I know I may get some discourse from the fan community by saying this, but I'm just telling it like it is. And then with biopics, like, there's been a trend of music biopics lately. There's always some crazy cliche in biopics, and I feel that the Michael biopic may fall into those traps or cliches. And the cliches I've listed on here are, like, the main problem with biopics is biopic cliches and issues, biased point of view / narrative, sugarcoated, sanitized, justified portrayals of subject, the artistic license, and life stories. This summarized like a Wikipedia article, like a Wikipedia biopic. Now, regards to biopic cliches and issues, like Walk Hard spoofed this hard. Like the typical biopic is, it starts with the performer in their later years or at the height of their fame performing, then cuts to their childhood, where they're pretty much their musical talent is discovered. They don't dwell on their childhood that long. Then they struggle to make it big in the industry. They meet the love of their lives or their spouse. They wind up finding fame. They wind up falling into some issues. They make a comeback and they pass away. Like that's the typical biopic. And then with biased POV / narratives, in various biopics, there always a biased point of view or narrative. Like, for example, the Straight Outta Compton biopic, which got some criticism for his portrayal of Eazy-E. It was not only was it executive produced by his widow, it was executive produced by some of the surviving members of NWA, which explains why Eazy-E was portrayed that way. Then another example was El Cantante, the biopic about Hector Lavoe, which got criticism from some of his family members and close friends. Because if you watch El Cantante, it doesn't portray Hector Lavoe, the singer, the legend, the icon. It portrays Hector Lavoe, the drug addict. And then they pretty much portrayed Carmen, the mother of his eldest child, as a groupie when in actuality, Carmen and Hector were in a relationship before or while he started dating Poochie. And then the fact they barely danced around Poochie being a enabler to his drug addictions. And then there's the DeBarge biopic, which is horrible, which, despite the fact it was executive produced by his widow and children, it was super horrible and super cringy. It has a biased point of view in regards to the family, which in itself is a topic of discussion. And then the third reason I wrote was sugarcoated, sanitized, justified portrayal of subjects. The only biopic that didn't sugarcoat the person it was based on, though it showed pretty much all warts and all, was Red, which is one of the best biopics I ever watched. Especially since he had the involvement of Ray Charles himself. It delved into his childhood, which included him losing his brother George and him going blind at a young age. He detailed his struggles with drug addiction. He detailed his affairs with women while he was married. All of that. Because a lot of these biopics, they have to sugarcoat the subject. Like, for example, The Temptations, and I meant to bring this up earlier when I made my earlier point. The Temptations, it had a biased point of view as well, since the movie was executive produced by Otis, the lone surviving member, and the way that they portrayed the other members, there was a reason why David's estate, Mama Rose, his ex-wife, sued the creators by the movie because they didn't do the relative justice. Like, I didn't even know that David and Eddie had families until I watched their second episodes. That's how much they downplayed their home life. And then the fact they portrayed Paul as a raging alcoholic, never mentioning the fact he has sickle cell and lupus. While with the New Edition story, all the members were involved and had input on their portrayals. But back to my second point. Like, the Selena series is pretty much a sugar-coated biopic made from her family's perspective. Then the Celia movie is, in a way, they sugarcoated or justified her story, since even with Celia, she was the side character in her own bio series. They made Lola a fictional character, the main character in a bio series about Celia Cruz. Which, speaking of which, there's artistic license, namely they can add fictionalized scenes or add fictional characters for the sake of drama or to protect certain identities. Like, for example, at the New Edition story, they had a character named Xena, who was Ralph Tresvant's love interest, who was based on Ralph's ex-wife. I forgot her name. I forgot the name of the real life Xena. Then with the Crazy Sexy Cool, the TLC story, they had Larry, a fictional boyfriend of Left Eye, who pretty much tries to turn Lisa against her group members. And then there's also artistic license with a tendency to use add fictional scenes for the sake of drama. Like, for example, what's love got to do with it? And the infamous cake scene never happened. If you know what I'm talking about. Much like the infamous R-word scene in the movie. Those scenes were completely fictionalized. I know this is a non-music example, but there's Goodfellas. There was some artistic license to Goodfellas as well, namely the scene where Tommy gets whacked. In real life, we don't know what happened to the actual Tommy since he disappeared, but he's assumed dead. And more likely, Tommy, he got deleted by the Gambino family, mob family. But I digress. And then, last but not least, the Wikipedia biopic. Their life story summarized like a Wikipedia biopic. Like, for example, the Leah movie is kind of summarized like a Wikipedia. Then Lambamba, but then again, considering the fact Richie Valens was only a teenager when he passed away, it would make sense. Then the Bobby DeBarge was pretty much giving Wikipedia biopic vibes. Even with the Bobby DeBarge biopic, the only thing you take away from the biopic was that he and his family had a hellish upbringing, and he was a druggie who died from catching AIDS in prison. That's what you get from the Bobby biopic. Like, you learn more from their unsung episode in the books run by the relatives, except the mom's book, than watching that movie. And like with the biopics, there are good ones like Ray, The Jackson's Mega Dreams, Selena, the movie. What's another good biopic? What's Love Got to Do with it, etc. The bad biopics are the Bobby DeBarge story, Being in the Mirror. But then the outright horrible is things the made for TV biopics like All Eyes on Me, Aaliyah. Oh, I can't think of a horrible biopic. The Lifetime, unauthorized movies, etc. Now, the next point I want to get into is the bio series or bio novella biopics, which I was introduced to back in 2021. Like, I watched 3 bio series biopics, which are Celia, El Principe de la Canción, and Mariposa de Barrio. In those biopics, they focus on 3 well-known Latin music icons: Celia Cruz, Jose, and Jenny Rivera. All 3 of those subjects, they were deceased. Jose passing away a year after his bio series aired. But the one I prefer, I'm not getting into which one I prefer, but they all have some of their issues or cliches. Like, for example, there were some issues with Jenny's bio series, which Jenny, she's also getting a movie based on her life, where namely some people feel that the series focused way too much on her sister Rosie, which, considering that Rosie at the time was the executive estate, would make sense. Then with Jose, who was involved with his bio series, there were certain people that had issue with the way that his second wife was portrayed. So, all I have to say is, the key to being truthful is consistency. And if you're consistent with your story, you're telling the truth. And then with Celia was practically the side character in her own bio series, not to mention they in a way bastardized her story by character assassinating her relatives, namely her dad and her sister. Like for example, they made her dad out to be this horrible deadbeat who disowned his daughter just because he was singing. But if you read her book, her dad initially, he didn't want her pursuing a music career because it was associated with Ladies at Night. But when he realized how his Celia wasn't like a pretty much a leader of the night, and that she still was a good woman, that's when he pretty much all of a sudden supported his daughter's singing career. Then with the sister got on her nerves. The sister, who's based on her Celia's baby sister Gladys, they made it seem like she was a resentful biatch, which is not the case. And then with Lola, she's loosely based on La Lupe, though La Lupe and Celia didn't have that close of a friendship. And he also could assassinate her as well by making her have a creepy stepdad that creeped on her, which was not the case in real life. And then with Mariposa de Barrio, the scenes that were hard to watch was Jenny's abuse scenes, because we all know Jenny, she had an abusive first husband. And it was hard watching a woman get abused for 20 episodes. And then the fact that said ex-husband did the unthinkable to her. Who is it? Okay. This crazy, this fucking rain, man. Her niece and nephew, her niece and sister. No, her daughters and sister. But all of them were good watches. And I feel like a person's life story they would have done better in the episodic bio series format, because you get a lot more of their life story. But guys, I hope you enjoyed my podcast episode. In the next parter, I'll discuss historical figures that deserve a biopic or deserve a better biopic and why it will probably never happen. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll see you guys soon.